In the first
Now,
part of this episode, we discussed about the strategic components of Myanmar resistance in the last 5 years, especially the early anti-coup resistance. So Yashua mentioned about the frameworks of strategic thinking in nonviolence, which is to undermine the adversary power and will at the same time to build up the resistance side power and will. So using this framework, we explore some of the weak point from the resistance side and also what could be the missing point in the less resistance. So this time now, the military has been doing elections and they are transforming their regime, shuffling, they are building lots of international relationship with China, India, and ASEAN and Russia and many things. And also even inside the military gaining more and more power, whether it's about military or people will or lots of the time people not right now saying that the revolution is in the decline, the resistance is in the decline right now. So in these times of decline, I would say, what are the things we should consider right now and also for the future?
well, one is an understanding that it is going to take time. But in my earlier points, I was talking about things going on inside of the country, both the pillars of power that the military has of the different sectors and the pillars of power that the groups opposing the military have. But there's an international element here that also needs to be considered. The military has been moving strategically to gain as much international support as it can. It lives, its country is in the right region for that because ASEAN is a collection of, for the most part, not democratic states. Um, Myanmar is now going to look very much like Cambodia. Um, the Cambodian leader is an authoritarian. He's made himself a small little hereditary um, authoritarian state. He regularly jails or exiles or assassinates his political opponents. And he's welcome in many countries. He has no problem buying weapons, particularly at this time. So we're going to see more of this type of activity because the international element is important for both sides. And there should be no illusions about what the international sector can do for the people's struggle. I don't see other governments endorsing the national unity government. And the signs that people held calling for responsibility to protect in the very, very early days of the resistance, both were not an accurate understanding of the international sector and what is out there. And there's much less out there now than there was 5 years ago because there has been a drift in several countries towards more authoritarian governments. And so there are more friends, as it were, for the military regime in Naypyidaw to approach. So there needs to be a realistic assessment of what do we want from the international sector and what can we realistically get from them. I think that assessment needs to be done so that you don't waste your effort because there's limited capacity to do that. But there is some things that can be done in the international sphere. Again, they should be aimed at decreasing the power or the will of the military. Any activity within our national sector, or increasing the power of people and the will of the people to resist. So these should also be the goals with engaging with the international sector.
Yeah, yeah, for us freedom fighter, we are working mostly with the internal domestic actors, even though I'm in exile in Chiang Mai. Um, uh, Yeah, I think this too is like I think interrelated, whether the internet struggle and international support and struggle together. I think if we have a coherent strategy, I think it will be way to coordinate. Right now, what missing is like we don't even know how we will end the military regime or military leadership. We don't have clear idea. Like whether it's about like when the NUG has been recognized from international actor and they get the armed supports and then whether they will take over to the NAPIRO, I think that's impossible. But at the same time, we don't know how even people resistant, like because in the early days, people feel like we tried the best, we tried the most. Like I think there was some research from Erica Chenoweth that I think something like 3.5% rule, like if there's a protest people that is exceeding 3.5% of the overall population, then the resistance is mostly likely to win. Yeah, yeah, Erica. So, but in Myanmar, that's not happened. Like we have lots of million in the there was there was a movement, like mass movement around the country with millions and millions of people on the streets. Um, um, but the military didn't back off, or we cannot take over military. So people feel lack of trust toward the resistance movement also, like people resistance or nonviolence movement also. Um, I think that part is it's really difficult to regain trust on how we can make change. Um, yeah. About internationally, yeah, I agree that like in the early, even starting from the early day, we focus like from the international support to win this. I think international is only support, it's not the main ingredient. I feel the main ingredient would be coming from the internal, what are the way and what are the sub even we need to clarify what are the needs and what are the way to win. So like I think that's a missing part. Um yeah, but I feel like right now, one thing shifting is that people are now, lots of people are not relying much on the arm struggle. They in the early day, people think arm resistance will be quick, but right now people see that that will take longer. So now people are starting to think of alternative way. It doesn't necessarily their aim is to take over military directly, but they try to see about more like people see like, yeah, we need to fight military at the same time, we need to sustain our life. Because last 5 years, we don't care much about our economics, educations, or livelihoods, or anything about the social system. But now people are thinking more and more about we need to start rebuilding fast before taking over military because it's been there are lots of sacrifice. Like we don't care much about long-term effects. We do everything. Like we do the strike endlessly. There is no turning back. Everything we shut down everything. So like now I think people are thinking about building new system. I think that could be a starting point to regain hope because protest is just mobilizing, it's just walking on the street without the ideology or system to combine these forces. I think it could be waste in the long term. So I think starting from this alternative systems could be a great start from right now. And if we have a direction for the future, I think that would be great. So do you have any suggestions? Yeah.
I think with the next episode, we can look at what negotiations mean because there's not much talk about that right now. There is the ISP report that I just mentioned on ceasefires, but this is something for people to consider. What would that look like? What would people want? Can this be discussed? That's building in a positive direction, but it has to acknowledge the fact that the military has a type of power that needs to be addressed. And if we're not going to try and militarily conquer them, it's going to require another path. So maybe the next one is we can take a look at how nations move from war to peace.
Yeah, you mentioned in the first episode also. Um, yeah, so yeah, great thing is now people are aware that this will be a long-term battle. People are realizing that it's a long-term struggle. So people are thinking about yeah, long-term thinking. People are starting to think for long term. So I think this is a great time to talk these things. Maybe we'll talk in the next episode. So for this episode, I think it's better to sum up what we have discussed about the strategy part. What are the key lessons and what are the suggestions for the future about the strategic dimension? How can we think strategically in the civil movement, in the nonviolent movement? Uh, yeah, so shall we sum up?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I think there are lots of things to learn. Like we always need to measure how um, not just in terms of activity, but in terms of I think results or impacts on the whether that will strengthen the people power and will or undermine the military power and will. So that is a very useful framework, I think. And there are lots of important part that we have discussed, like we need a preparation and long-term thinking, and also we need a deep understanding of the military, and also I think also the opposition side. There are lots of different opposition side between different ethnic groups, different generations. I think it's good to understand how each groups have different interests, like the woman group, the youth group, ethnic groups, different groups have different interests. So we need to first aware so that there will be way to collaborate better. We didn't touch much on the leadership side. So yeah, so whether these days, there are lots of discussion that we have social media. We have everyone can be a leader, so we don't need a leader. So this part we don't touch much. So and about social media also, I think we don't touch much. We touch a little bit, but it helped a lot about communication better. But at the same time, it's I don't know, it's really hard to control. Sometimes it is going to very easily to the extreme, like radical action, extreme action, but without deep consideration. So it's I think reverse of strategic thinking. So that's also one of the challenge in the digital age revolution, I think. Yeah, overall, yeah, I think we have some framework, right? Right now, I think it is good that people are thinking for long term. So rather than thinking from the starting from individual, I think it's better to start from the surrounding, from the how we can build different system, different idea, so that we can test it out. And once the idea is good, I think other people are ready to inspire and learn and replicate to a nationwide movement gradually. So. And what lacking in the early days that we don't like the military, but we don't have a clear idea of what kinds of system we want to build. Like we don't like the military education system, but we don't have an idea of what kinds of system we want to build, education system we want to build. At the same time, we say like we want democracy and federal, but at the same time, military is saying the same. Military is saying they are also for democracy and federal system. So federal. So, but we don't have any clear idea, I think, clarity of what democracy means and what federal means and what kinds of future our society will look like. So this kinds of thing, I think right now it is time because early days, it's like we are going very rash with very high speed. So with high speed, I think we don't have much time, much space to think. But right now, if we are thinking for long term, I think we have more space to think and try out what will work and then we can discuss also or explore more about the new imagination, I think new system, something like that. We can test it out. So I think it is also a great time to do that thing. Yeah.
And you mentioned Erica Chenoweth's work and said 3.5%. She does identify a minimum amount of people who are in opposition for regimes to crumble. But that's not you reach 3.5% for a day or a week. It's much longer than that. And once you reach 3.5%, you've got to tumble beyond that figure as well. So it's not something you just achieve at one point in time. It's got to grow to that point and then expand beyond it. But if it grows to that point, what she says is it will expand beyond that and it will lead to victory. So it can't be achieved for a short period of time.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's also the missing part, like we feel. Um, Yeah, before the digital and social media age, people need system to cooperate. People need communication system, education system, organizing structure to coordinate and to work. But right now we have social media, so we that make a I can spoil the resistance that we can easily coordinate in the mobilization stage, but there is no in other forms of education or organizing stage. It's really hard to work it because it's like reverse mobilization. Like it start from mobilization rather than education or organizing. So I think that's a reverse challenge that we are facing. And that's why I feel like, military, let's say like there were hard supporter very loyal people, like 5% of the total population, and another 5 or 10% like very like affiliated or leaning to our military. But overall, like 60 or 70% of people don't like military right now. That's very obviously, it could be more than that. But what missing, I feel like, is like we have numbers and also we have quality, I think, in terms of individually, because we are, we can think freely, we are, more like freedom, and there are lots of youth and intellectuals. But what missing, I think, is how to work together. Like we need some kinds of systems. And we can touch although in the upcoming episode also. I feel like right now lots of the people pointing the flaws of the current, the previous resistance to the political leadership like NUG or other group. But I feel like the same critics can also go towards civil society also. Right now, the civil society, the intellectual are doing work, but these are not very much, how can I say, contributing to the community, or how can I say, um, they are doing in their own circle, I feel like. So maybe that part we can discuss how to strengthening the civil society, also intellectual, how to create knowledge production for the people. So that part also missing, so that there are different people working differently, but there is no way to create some kind of synergies or coordinate among the people. So I think that part is most difficult challenge. Like it is easy to walk on the street because like it is just walking, but to talk, to discuss, to build, to negotiate, to work together in a more complex tasks, I think that's quite challenging for individuals like who are opposing military. Yeah.
You need some unity of focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So let's talk more because like yeah, about that there are lots of conversation coming up. Like we can talk in the coming episode, we can talk about the negotiation part and also about the civil society and the unity of focus. Yeah.
Thank you, Yoket.
Thank you.